Hello and welcome to Fat Kid Fit Bod. I'm your friendly neighborhood trainer, Noah Sage Zimmerman. I'm a professional personal trainer based in Los Angeles, California, and I help men and women build bodies that look and feel strong. This podcast will focus not just on physical health, but also mental health and the challenges that make it hard to prioritize your health. I'm here to tell you how you can eat delicious meals, travel, work, build strong relationships, be social, and live the life you want, all while building and maintaining a body you love. With the help of other professionals and people that prioritize health, I'm giving away my best practices and reviewing emerging research in health and fitness so you can feel your best, look your best, and live life to the fullest. Welcome to season 2 of Fat Kid Fit Bod. Up our first guest of this season, first guest ever actually of Fat Kid Fit Bod, is a dear friend of mine from middle school and high school. He's a licensed physical therapist. He has a bachelor in science and kinesiology with an emphasis in exercise science from Sonoma State University and a doctor of physical therapy degree from West Coast University. He currently works at Muller and Weber Physical Therapy in Santa Barbara as an orthopedic physical therapist. He recently had his first child, and he's also married to his high school sweetheart. Please welcome Gabriel Loza. Yeah. Oh, we have a live audience. All right, dude.
Oh,
how you doing,
buddy? I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. So, I think the first question I have for you is, I know you originally were on track to be a chiropractor, so I'm just wondering why you chose physical therapy over chiropractics.
Oh man, come on, swinging.
Well, the reason I ask is because it's a lot of people go to the chiropractor, but the chiropractic practice is very very polarized.
Yeah, no, it totally is. I used to actually work at a chiropractor's office. You know, the wonderful, the world-renowned Dr. Kevin Fisher,
The legend.
that guy, who's a wonderful chiropractor. Him and his wife, but also the Fisher chiropractor. So I used to work for them, and I actually was when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I asked Dr. Fisher, like, hey man, should I be a chiropractor? And he said, so I was like, okay, so I'm not going to do that.
Did he have a reason?
And he gave me, yeah, he had reasons. He was just talking about insurance and reimbursement. He's been a chiropractor for a really long time. He's kind of towards the end of his career, and he was just saying reimbursement rates are 20% of what they used to be, and it's hard being a chiropractor. He recommended to go actually be a DO, an osteopath. And I was like, I don't do that. So I thought physical therapy was a good thing to get into. Because that's what my undergrad was like, pre-physical therapy basically. And when I went to PT school and when I learned about PT, there's this like weird view, like PTs and chiropractors kind of butt heads.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of silly. Because there's a lot of like really good chiros out there. And that's the same thing everywhere. There's great physicians and there's bad physicians. Great PTs and there's bad PTs. And there's really, really good chiros. And there's some not so good chiros. I mean, being a personal trainer, like that huge spectrum.
Yeah.
There's some awesome personal trainers out there, and there's people who think, I'm a personal trainer. They're giving us a bad name, man.
Yeah, I mean it's so right. And there's bad doctors out there too, as they say. Like,
yeah,
isn't it like whatever a doctor that graduated with like a C average is they're still a doctor. I think so. Yeah, there's something. They're all doctors.
Class.
They, just Kevin Fisher helped me when I fractured my back. Back in high school, he's the chiropractor strength coach that I went to that really helped me recover from my my broken back, I guess, if you will. But so a lot of people love getting adjusted. So from a injury standpoint, Well, why don't you can you explain or paint light to what getting adjusted means, is, if there's any like validity in having it done when people are injured? Is it just popping a
Yeah.
bone or
Well, it's so like because like as PTs like we use joint mobilizations and we can use like we call it like a grade 5 velocity or amplitude mobilization, right? But it's the same. It's very similar as cracking your back in a chiropractor.
Gabe,
So
if you
it
could
looks like
maybe
it's the same thing.
speak a little closer to your mic. I think your mic is connected from your computer.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
That's a
So
nice
like
close up of your face too.
they look a little bit they look a little bit similar, but I think we use them philosophically, or I guess the intention behind them is slightly different.
Okay.
Um, the main way that I use them, it's to try to like, desensitize your nervous system, right? So like your sympathetic chain ganglia live in like your like, upper thoracic, like lower T4 or 5, somewhere in there.
Hmm.
And if you give a good grade 5 um, mobilization through there, it can help to decrease that whole sympathetic drive, decrease your pain response, and just overall kind of calm your nervous system down. And so that's a lot of like what I use it for, and it can be used for you can do a grade 5 mobilization on any joint, but it's not by any means like a go-to. It's like it tends to be like a tool that I use in my toolbox of all the things that I like to do. Chiropractics, I think it's a little bit different, and they there's like such a variety of types of chiropractors, and that's one of the things that you know I didn't necessarily like about chiropractors, and that Fisher kind of agreed with me. Or I don't think he would mind me saying this, but there are some chiropractors that just like, oh, you're out of alignment, you need to keep coming back to me, like. So people tend to be like, oh yeah, I've been going to my chiropractor for 25, 30 years, because I just need to go. I need them to align me, right? And it's kind of a relationship where it's like I need them, right? So it's almost like a dependence. Whereas PT, not my hope. I don't want any of my patients to feel like they need me.
Yeah.
Like I want to be able to empower people, give them the tools that they need to be able to kind of eventually manage stuff on their own. Educate them and guide them, and like reliant on them. So I'd say that's a little bit of the difference. Physiologically, like the cracking sound, at least my understanding is that it's just like a release of gas,
Yeah.
nitrogen. I don't really know, but it feels really good.
It does. I'm kind of addicted to cracking my fingers and my neck. In fact, I'll see if I can.
I crack.
Ooh, that was a nice one. I don't know if you could hear that over the mic.
Oh no, I felt it.
I I think there's such like chiropractors. I think do get a bad rap. There, like as you were saying, there's a lot of good ones out there, but I think, I mean, also the start of chiropractics is like such a interesting science. If I last time I read it, if I can remember, this a guy in the like late 1800s was like into seances, and he like started the practice of chiropractics essentially, and thought it had to do with like magnets or something, and then his son killed him by hitting him with a car, and now his son like turned chiropractics into what it is today. So it's all like a little woo woo like funkiness. But to your point, a lot of bad chiropractics out there convince their clients that they need to keep coming back to them for the rest of their lives to be adjusted. But like you said, in my profession too, my dream is that my clients don't need me anymore, that I've educated them enough that they can go out on their own. And if they do want to continue training with me, it's because they don't want to think about like designing a program on their own, or they just like hanging out with me. They need they like me as a friend. I don't know if you get the opportunity to become that close with your clients, but I think it's very relatable that we don't want our clients to rely on us forever. And I mean, if we want them to be able to be good and healthy on their own.
for sure. And I think a lot of it comes down to like just like where your heart's at. Like if
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody like as like any healthcare professional that like really cares and is invested rather than, you know, like somebody who's just like, yeah, whatever, or like who's burned out or who just doesn't like their job or who, you know, got into it. It's not something they thought it was going to be. Like I'd rather see like a chiropractor who like really cares
Yeah.
and like knows what they're talking about rather than like a PT who's just like, here's a cold pack, go stretch.
So I think I would say there's a lot of different types of physical therapists. And I think in my
Oh yeah,
experience, when I've gotten physical therapy, a lot of times the ones that I've gone to through insurance seem like really burnt out. They see like 3 or 4 clients an hour, they're seeing 20 to 30 people a day. In your experience and in the multiple amount of internships and jobs that you've held, when you were in residency, in your opinion, like when people are looking for a physical therapist when they've experienced an injury, what type of factors should they be looking at before they choose a physical therapist? Should they go through the ones that they get through their insurance that is just kind of like almost like a PT mill that they just have clients coming in
yeah,
and out, or they should try to find maybe a personal trainer that's outside of their insurance network, but it's going to help them, exponentially more.
yeah. I mean, it really all depends on why you're coming to PT. Like some people, would be appropriate to, go see a personal trainer, but it's like you're coming after like surgery or something like that. And to speak to like the PT mills, like those, they're definitely a thing. Um, and it's kind of unfortunate, I fortunately I love where I work. Where I work, it's not like that at all. I tend to see people like every 30 minutes. So you'll have at least 30 to 45 minutes like one-on-one time with me. Sometimes up to an hour. For evals, I get a full hour. And so I spend a lot of time, per patient, and depending on where my patients are, like in their rehab process, if they need a little bit more time with me specifically, or I'm able to give them that, which is really nice. This is why I really like where I work. But that's very much not the case at a lot of places. Um, and it's unfortunate because a lot of the people that tend to work there, like it's very overwhelming, and are seeing, like you said, 20 people a day, and some people can handle that, and still manage. But even if you're a great PT, if you're seeing somebody for 15 minutes, it's not a lot of time. You got to be pretty
Yeah.
efficient. So it's kind of a bummer. But I mean, as far as like what you're looking for, um, and like again, I said it all depends on what your goal is. Like if you're an athlete and you're trying to go back to like a sport, if you're a soccer player, a basketball player, you tore your ACL, you're trying to return to a high level. Like there are people that specialize in that. Like I
Mm.
worked I had an internship at a great place. I will shamelessly plug them, Ignite Physio, and in Orange County. They have multiple locations all throughout Orange County, but Ziad Dadul was my mentor. That guy is awesome, and so he's not insurance, so he's out of network. So that's basically like a cash practice. But what they will do is they won't bill your insurance. They'll give you um, like a bill so that you can bill your insurance. So you pay them up front, and then depending on what insurance you have, they could reimburse you. Um, so that's a route that some people are taking. But you get one-on-one for an hour by somebody who's basically an expert in sports. Yes, his um, I forget what specialty. I think he's OCS. He's the orthopedic clinical specialist. But he does a lot of really really good work with people with ACLs and really high level athletes. He treats professional athletes, Division I athletes. So if you are looking for something really specific in your care, there's a lot of really small avenues of PT and like really small niches of PTs, like even within sports. If you're in an area where it's like, play lacrosse, there's people that are like, oh, I see a bunch of lacrosse players. I see it all day. This is like, I know the demands of your sport. I know what you need to succeed. And boom, 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 boom. I'm going to set you up to succeed. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot of different things, but it really just depends on what you're expecting out of it and what you want to get out of it.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so what you're saying is that there are different standards of physical therapists that like an athlete versus like a gen pop should go to.
Yeah, you know, if you're just a, somebody who's trying to get kids without pain, or just trying to walk without pain, like any physical therapist, like any orthopedic physical therapist would be really good. But if you're somebody who's really next level, like you're a high level cyclist, you're trying to get back to college or high level high school sports, um, you physically are putting demands on your body that are much higher than the average person. Like you're gonna really need to pursue either like a physical therapy clinic that's really geared towards athletes, or you're going to say, okay, I finished my standard PT. Now I need to either get a trainer who can really get me where I'm going, or I need to be able to do something to be able to fill that gap. Because like especially with like ACL injuries, like the re-tear rate of ACL is ridiculous. Because a lot of the places are set up, but they're not set up to be like, okay, you're going back to the really, really high level of activity. Like, you're cleared to go, back to school, or you're cleared to go back to work or whatever, but there tends to be a little bit of a disconnect. So my biggest recommendation to somebody who's a really high level athlete, like you need to do something to be able to make sure that you're okay to go back to like, running, cutting. There needs to be some sort of formal like, return to sport testing criteria, whether that's pop testing, whether that's you're using actual like legit dynamometers that will measure your actual force of your hamstrings and your quads, rather than just somebody doing a manual muscle test and being like, can you straighten your leg, can you pull your leg? Because for a regular person that's enough, but not for somebody who's an athlete.
And you're pretty knowledgeable about this because Sarah has torn her ACL like 3 times, right? Sarah is Gabe's wife.
Yeah, my wife. So going in, so my wife was a fantastic soccer player. Going into high school, she had an ACL tear, and that was like the unhappy triad. Like she had the ACL, she had the meniscus, and she had the MCL, which is all of it. So got surgery, was cleared, went back, tore it again, and that happened pretty much every year in high school. So she's torn her right one I think 3 times, and her left one 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty good segue to start talking about. I mean, obviously knee injuries are a pretty common injury, but just before we started recording, we were talking about how knee, shoulder, and back injuries are probably the most common that we all see. So what would you say are the most common injuries besides, and we know for Sarah, ACL tearing is the most common, but what are other injuries that people see most commonly, and what are the things that you think that they can do to, one, do their best to prevent them, and two, if they are experiencing these common injuries, what kind of options do they have, or what kind of things can they do to fix and remedy this, and beyond seeing you or another physical therapist or a trainer?
Sorry, you cut out there for a little bit.
Basically, basically, what do you think? Like, so one, what are the most common injuries that you see, and that you think people experience, and what actionable steps can they take to, one, try to avoid them, and two, can they try to, if they are experiencing an injury, do on their own besides seeing, you or a personal trainer or another physical therapist to help fix them?
Yeah. Okay. So, you kind of break it down a little bit by like body part. Knees tend to be a huge percentage of what I see. So things like meniscus problems with ACL, sprains, strains, things like that. And a lot of knee problems aren't necessarily directly from the knee. A lot of like the knee is kind of a weird, funny joint where, if there's an issue at the hip or if there's an issue at the ankle, whether that's not enough mobility or not enough strength, then things can really not work properly at the knee, or there could be a lot of extra strain at the knee joint in particular. So a lot of what I see is, you have somebody who's really using their quads a lot, or you get using their quads or using their hamstrings a lot to kind of compensate for what tends to be weak points. Or I don't necessarily like to say weakness, but they could use some strengthening in their glutes. And because the knee really only, or sorry, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, to that point, I always preach resistance training for everybody. And I think, like, in your experience, would you say that a lot of times people get injured because they have a lack of skeletal muscle protecting some of these, areas, or maybe weakness forces these like ligaments and tendons to compensate for some of the work or strain that people are putting on those joints?
Yeah, like a lot of it sometimes is just like pure strength. Or like this muscle is just weak, but a big portion of it is coordination. You'll have it where you do a muscle test and the muscle itself will be strong, but just the coordination's not there. Their motor plan is just to use. Okay, I'm just using my quads for this. Going upstairs or for squatting. Where it's like, okay, do a squat. It's just all knee strategy. And they're like, okay, stick your hips back. And I'm like, I can't stick my hips back. I physically can't engage my glutes like on purpose.
Yeah.
Honestly,
No, I think
it becomes like a coordination game.
I think you've noticed probably that like some people come into your practice, you're probably like, it's when I first started training, I think this was really hard for me to wrap my brain around, because I couldn't relate. And sometimes it's just like, think it's surprising is that so many people have a lack of body awareness.
Yeah.
And like part of our jobs are probably like coming up with cues to help people move in the right way, whether it be like physical cues that we, put our hands on their body, or vocal cues so they can try to figure it out themselves. But you're right that there's just such a lack of body awareness and coordination that most people experience. And it's probably from all that Netflix and chilling that people are doing. Well, maybe not the chilling part, but the Netflixing part.
Like the good thing though is that like if that's your issue, but like if your issue is just a coordination issue, that tends to be the fastest fix. Like, oh, we got your okay, let's work on some coordination. Your strength's already there. Like, boom, you're done. You're chilling. Whereas if you really have a true strength issue, now you have to be consistent. How long does it take to actually get hypertrophy? Right? It takes 6 to 8 weeks of actual consistency. Right?
Yeah.
And you'll see a lot of changes in that 6 to 8 weeks, but that's all with neural adaptation, right? You're continuously going to be working on your coordination and you're strengthening that connection to the muscle. So the glutes tend to be huge in knee issues. If you look at somebody run, or you look at somebody squat, or you're looking at all these functional things, and every time you do this activity, your knee just dives in right? You see that dynamic valgus, what do you want to call it? Valgus medial collapse. When you look at that, you say, okay, like the glute has a perfect line of pull to just keep everything in alignment, right? Like if your knee's diving into like, internal rotation, adduction, the glute has the perfect alignment to just pull that out and make sure your knee's really nice and straight. Your glutes should be the biggest, most powerful muscle in your body.
So we should all have strong butts.
Yeah. Dude,
strong butt club and hamstring.
Yeah, honestly.
So, I mean, a lot of people outside of our careers probably don't know what abduction and adduction and all that, internal, external rotation of the hips probably means. So, what do you think is like explain it like I'm 5? I mean, I know your daughter's only 1, so how would you explain it to Taya if she could talk?
So, like, you want to be able to have a line. Like, if you go down and you squat, like, your knee shouldn't be going in towards the center of your body, right? If you can see like your whole foot when you're squatting, or if your knees are touching, or if like one of the biggest things, if you go to stand up and your knees are touching each other, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're trying to stand up and you're pushing your knees together, like your glutes are snoozing, like they are fast asleep.
So I mean,
being able to wake those up are important.
Yeah, so I think for me, when I teach clients how to, activate their glutes, a lot of it is like something like monster walks or just banded mini work prep. So they have like a really tangible way and like know what it's like. Oh, that is what it feels like when my ass is on fire. What do you, besides things like that, is there anything that you do to teach your clients to fire their butts or make sure their glutes are revved on?
Monster walks are great. I love monster walks. If somebody's having a really hard time and they're just like they can't get it, like I've had people before where I've tried monster walks and I'm like, that just hurts my knees. My knees are just on fire. It's like, okay, your quads are just doing everything. Sometimes you have to scale it all the way back to just some really basic isometrics. Okay, lay on your stomach and just squeeze your butt. And if it can't do that, okay, you got to give them a little tactile cue, like, hello, wake up. And sometimes that's enough, you know? But also then you have to look at, okay, where's their like, pelvis alignment? Are they really, anteriorly tilted, posteriorly tilted? Like, is there a huge sway in their back, or is their back super flat? So you have to look at the pelvis alignment. Yeah, maybe we can do a little bit of pelvic tilt, to get some glutes firing. Somebody who's more high level, who's having a little bit of problems, like just doing like standing fire hydrant. Just like you throw a band on, you just do like kind of a standing fire hydrant where you're standing on one leg, and that leg is kind of abducted, externally rotated, like you're like a dog taking a leap in a fire hydrant. It's like, okay, hold that. For how long? Long enough.
Until
20,
it hurts.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Until you feel a deep burn.
And probably most people can't hold it longer than 20 to 30 seconds anyways.
No. Yeah, if you can hold it for longer than that, then I'm probably going to be doing something else.
So I know we're like closing up on time, but so we just talked about knees for a while, and I think that's probably like one of the most common injuries that people see. But I think it's so connected to back injuries as well, and shoulder. I think it all ends up. It all starts somewhere. So knees often lead to back injuries, or it's a knee injury that just presents itself as a back injury, or et cetera, et cetera. So as far as like back injuries, and I think the ones we probably hear about the most are just like herniated discs. Herniated disc is like a super common
one. A lot
one.
of like herniated discs, sprains, strains. People that have, if you maybe are a little bit older, you maybe have like some stenosis, or you have like some narrowing of the joint space and degenerative problems. yeah, back stuff is that can be tricky. But again, it's the things you come back to like glutes, right? If you bend forward and all of that stress is on your back and you can't use your glutes, like if you can't really engage your hips to hinge, right? If you're really rounded forward, that's so much stress on
Yeah.
on your structures, and if you're not able to take that, right? If that's all on your joints, and that could be an injury waiting to happen. Right? If you're not training and trying to like get your body to adapt to that, then you're going to be in trouble. So like again, glutes can be hugely important because then you start doing things like good mornings or a hip hinge, like, like RDL type stuff, where it's like okay, this is how you bend forward and stabilize. If you can get that move down, where it's like okay, this is how I bend without moving my back. Because then you think about okay, I'm training glutes and then abs. Glutes and abs are always complementary. You should
Yeah.
always be anytime you're doing glutes, you should always be doing ab work because everything's pulling on your pelvis. Your glutes are pulling your pelvis into that posterior pelvic toe, and then your abs are just complementary. Right? So
Yeah.
they work hand in hand.
Yeah, I always teach my clients using the dead bug to teach like what it feels like to have your transverse abdominis working and how to tuck your, get into posterior pelvic tilt, tucking your hips underneath your rib cage. And I think one thing that in my experience has been so important I've actually had a lot of clients come to me with one degenerative disc disease and herniated discs. And one of the ways that I've helped them post their physical therapy is one, teaching them dead bugs, and that has really translated well to a hip hinge. Because a lot of it, I think, especially back injuries, is a weak core and no knowledge of how to tuck your hips and create like bracing using your diaphragmatic breathing, and creating integrity with your hips and spine via a posterior pelvic tilt. So what a posterior pelvic tilt, guys, is just like kind of squeezing your butt and almost tucking your hips underneath your ribs. An anterior pelvic tilt is like an arched back, butt out kind of scenario. There's a couple different
I
scenarios.
like that you are talking about breathing.
Oh, dude, breathing is like
huge.
king.
I've done lots of research on breathing, and that's like if you're like I have no abs, start with your breathing. Like, that is the foundation of all of your abdominal stability.
Yes, so true. Well, we're almost done, Gabe, but I do want to ask you, how have you, how has it been? Gabe's daughter, Taya, just turned 1, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So he's been a new father for about a year. And I'm just curious how he finds balancing being a father, balancing doing things that are important to him, balancing continually dating Sarah and maintaining like a relationship with her. And how does health and fitness fit into your life currently?
Yeah, it's that first year was like you try to like really prepare yourself, but it's just like so much new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really, really fun to be able to be like this little person, just like learn and experience the world. Very time consuming. And for us, some people decide to do like a sleep training thing, and if that's like your thing, up to you. But like we didn't decide to go that route. So yeah, sleeping has been hard, and we're still trying to get the sleep on a good schedule. So just the time, like she's physically awake for a lot of the day. So in and of itself, trying to use like that as like exercise because she runs all over the place. We take her to the park all the time, beach all the time. So we're definitely getting steps in, And she's 23 pounds. So, if you're walking for like 30 minutes carrying her, it's like okay, it's like a kind of like carrying just 20-pound med ball around.
Yeah, that's a weighted carry right there, folks.
Yeah. Well, we should just get her like a little harness just so I can get like a farmer carry in.
Yeah. Or you could get like a yoke and just attach it to it and like walk with it above your head. I'm sure she'd love that.
Should love it. Should be all about that. You know,
I I
it's definitely a challenge.
dude, when I first met Taya, this was like after she was like 2 weeks old. Holding her was the most terrifying thing I think I've ever done in my life.
Oh yeah,
So I can't even imagine
absolutely,
it
absolutely.
being my own child.
Yeah, it is like it's amazing because you're holding this little person. They're so delicate. Oh my gosh, their hands are so small. Yeah, and she's actually a pretty big kid now. Like she just had her 1 year checkup, and she's 90, 98th percentile height wise. So I'm
Wow.
not particularly tall.
Sarah is pretty
You
tall
know,
though.
I'm sub six, sub six. I'm like 5'10" and a half. Sarah's a little bit taller. Yeah, yeah. Sarah's 5'9".
Well, I didn't mean like,
Yeah, taller.
I didn't mean like taller than you. But she's pretty tall for a woman. Is that okay to say? She's tall for a woman? Is that okay to say
Yeah,
nowadays?
she does identify.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's fine to say. Well, dude, thank you for coming on my podcast, man. I so appreciate it, and I hope to have you
Oh, yes.
on again soon in the future.
Yeah, please, anytime. Hopefully, I don't scare all your fans away.
Oh no, dude, I think you're gonna actually probably bring me more fans. The people are gonna be here for you. All right, brother.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you for coming on again. I love you, man, and hope to see you soon.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate this, and it's always anytime I get to see your face, you know, it's a great day.
Oh, and if people want to like learn more from you or like find you, where can they do that? Like Instagram? I mean, are you writing a book?
Yeah.
Do you have a
No,
Facebook
I'm
page?
not planning on writing a book. You know, if you want to come see me, or you want to, you know, check out where I work. I work with Muller and Weber Physical Therapy in Santa Barbara, California. Um, I'd love to treat you if you need me. I also do home health. Um, so if you want me to come to your house and make it happen, I can get you all strong and no more pain, then that's also an option too. So yeah, and follow me on Instagram, Gabe Loza. Um, I don't post a lot of physical therapy stuff, but you know,
But he's some cute pictures of his baby.
yeah, you can see pictures of my kid and my beautiful wife.
Yeah, and his beautiful life. Beautiful wife, beautiful life, beautiful child. All right, man. I love you.
Love you too, man.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope I have inspired and motivated you. I hope your inner fat kid is more proud of you today than they were before this. Fitness is a journey everyone should start, but no one should finish. So whether you're continuing or starting yours, I am so glad that we get to be a part of each other's. With Fitness, Noah.